music competitions, there are different film festivals, music festivals, game festivals, where the audience decides who will be the winner of the contest. Then we also rate products, hotels, restaurants, and different services that we get. We decide on what time to schedule a meeting with the group of colleagues, friends, and we were meeting, and to decide on the things we actually have. Then there are different live calls that you may or may not take part in, or you even can create your own call on whatever matter. And my friends recently, they expected a baby, and they created a poll about whether their cat, who used to occupy every spot in the flat, whether the cat has to get a haircut because the baby is coming and the cat is really sweet. So we have to vote. And originally, voting theory, so the theory that deals with designing voting protocols for comes literally from social sciences and political science. Recently, though, voting mechanisms have become very popular in the context of artificial intelligence. This is due to many applications of voting mechanisms in AI. For instance, in multi-agent systems, voting mechanisms in order to aggregate the preferences of different, as we assume, self-interested agents, right? So they have some preferences of the available alternatives, right? And we need to somehow aggregate those preferences, and then we have to decide what will be the outcome. So we need to coordinate the actions of the agents or groups of agents based on that decision. There are search engines that we all use, and in fact, the priority of the sites that we get are determined by the amount of links that they have. So in fact, these links can be seen as simple goals, right, of the users. There are recommender systems that again recommend different products and services to other users based on the votes of previous users. And finally, there are different competitions in this context. We want to decide who was the best trading agent, some solver, some team of robots, and so on. However, if we take examples that are known so far in classical voting theory, sometimes we cannot use them directly in applications of artificial intelligence. So we have to develop some new models in this context and to ask new questions which are relevant to this. And that's why we have now quite a lot of researchers who are working in the field of voting theory, social choice, or social choice again, we have to preference society, and we have to make a choice for society. So many of them work now in the field of social choice from this computational perspective. And while doing that, actually turns out that computer scientists get in these fields, they are also useful back in social science. Right? For instance, we bring the algorithms, we design algorithms for different voting procedures, and we can develop maybe complex voting procedures with different good properties. The expertise of computer scientists helps to understand the complexities, the computational complexities, the others of using these methods. There are techniques for knowledge representation, so we have lots of information, the preferences of the agents, so we choice in classical AI on the other hand, there are many computer scientists who say social choice also that workshop and also say computational social choice. And so there's a big exchange now in this direction. So what are we going to talk about here? We can't cover the whole voting theory today, of course, but we will look at a particular setting that can be analyzed using voting mechanisms and game theoretic tools that we already know. So assume that we have a group of agents, right, and these agents have to make decisions. So this can be a particular planned action, they have to decide on joint planned actions, they have to decide on allocation of some resources or tasks, and so on, or they have to accept a particular project to participate in. So there is some collective decisions that they have to make. Now they have individual preferences for the possible approach. Right? So assume in the classic model we assume usually that these preferences are given as a ranking of the set of alternatives. Right? So either for alternative A or alternative B, and so on. So you have just a list of preferences. And agents report these preferences to the mechanism, to the voting protocol, and voting protocol somehow decides what alternative is selected, either one or several alternatives, depends on the context. Right? And we have a result. Now, the question that we want to ask here is whether the agents would agree on some outcomes. So we may have different mechanisms. These mechanisms can output different outcomes. What we're interested in is the outcomes which are stable, right? So outcomes that the agents have agreement on. To tell you a fairy tale, from our focus statement. So there's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and legend that one night, Snow White tells the dwarf that Snow White, I don't see any reason to wake up tomorrow unless for tea. And so she fell asleep, and she slept and slept and slept and slept for quite a while. So the dwarfs have become worrying, saying, how are we going to wake up Snow White? And so the idea was that she is waiting for a particular young man, the prince probably, so they started to think about possible candidates that can solve the problem. So there's Prince, then there was also Prince Charming, who was up for such adventure. There's a Little Prince, and I also like that. We have four candidates, three princes, one superhero, one Alright, so we have the candidates, and we have the dwarfs who are going to decide who of those candidates is going to wake Snow White up. So they vote. Okay, and let's assume that we have the simplest voting method that you all are familiar with. It's called plurality. This is when each voter gives one vote to a particular candidate, right, and the one who has the most votes win the election. And so we assume that here we have Prince, Charming, Little Prince, Batman, and the first two dwarfs vote for Prince, the other four for Prince Charming, so on. So we have now the three princes in a tie, right, with two Batman has 1 vote, so Batman definitely is not winning at the moment. Right? And the 3 princes are inside. We're going to select one of them, so we have to break the tie somehow, and there can be many methods to do that. Assume for now that the board decided to break the ties alphabetically. Or in mathematics we say lexicograph. And so if we break the ties this way, then Prince Charming is the winner. So the voters have preferences over the outcome. So each one of them has some ranking over the candidates, and now let's see this particular instance. So for instance, the first dwarf who preferred the prince over all other candidates. He has some order of all of them, and in fact, the current winner is his least preferred candidate. And so he thinks, is there anything I can do about that? And Prince is not winning. I really would love him to win the election, but he, at the moment, has no chance, and I'm already voting for him, so I can't probably change my vote in any way to give more support to Prince, right? But can I do anything else? So imagine this is you, this is your preference, this is how many votes everyone has. Can you do anything now? How? How? Well, you assume that the others are not, you don't know if the others are going to do anything at all, right? You only can now tell something about yourself, yes.
Vote for Batman, but he'll be the most elected applicant.
Yes. So if you assume that the others will not do anything, right, then I can move my vote to Batman, and indeed this is what the first vote is going to do. So he moves his vote to Batman. Now what we have? Now we have a tie between Prince Charming, Little Prince, and Batman, and again, so the tie-breaking rule is that we break the tie alphabetically. Then now Batman will win. Right? And I prefer Batman over Prince Charming, so this is a better outcome. Right? So now this is the winner. And about that, but whatever. Now there are some other dwarfs which are not happy about the current outcome. The third dwarf says, look, Batman is a nice guy, he's not a prince at all, Punch is also a prince, so I'm not going to let that. Is there anything I can do? So at the moment, I vote for Prince Charming. Right? Is there anything I can do to improve the outcome from my perspective? This is my preference.
Can you move your voters to one that has already 2 votes, so it becomes 3?
Yeah. So you're currently voting for one of them. There's another one. There are 3 people in the tie, so you can support the third one, who is Little Prince, right? And you move your vote there, and now Little Prince is the winner, and that's the unique winner, right? Now there's no tie. Yeah, that's clear? Yeah. Well, again, another dwarf is not very happy with that. He says, well, Little Prince is nice and cute, but maybe not ready for that responsibility yet, so probably it's not a good idea. So Little Prince is his least favorite candidate, and he again can change something. So now we have 3 votes for Little Prince. This particular agent is voting for Prince, So he is not one of the three. He cannot remove, cannot reduce the number of votes for Little Prince, right? But he can support someone else who will become a co-winner, who will be in the side of Little Prince, and hopefully will win by the tie-breaking vote. And there is such a guy indeed, so the investment already was in favor. So if the second moves votes from Prince Charming to investment, now we have a tie which is linked with investment that we win by the lexicographic tie-break. And now we can check that in fact no one has an objective in this particular profile because Prince and Prince Charming cannot now win, even if someone supports them, right? And the guys who vote for Little Prince, definitely they support it. So no objections anymore. This is the result. And here we have it. So, well, that's a fairy tale. Let's introduce some notation. So what are we after in a more general context? So we want the agents to agree on some joint plan of action or allocation of resources or other connections that are an approaches that we need. And the agents have individual preferences of the possible alternatives. And as we have seen now, they may have incentives to actually meet support their true preference. So they have incentives to vote strategically. So actually what we have here, we have a game. We can consider the situation in the framework of normal form games that we have already seen. So we want to see if such strategic behavior can converge to a stable outcome, and stable in, again, in the familiar sense, it's an equilibrium. Right? So no one will have unilateral incentives to deviate from that. Now what's important in this setting is that also the agents do not even have to know the preferences of other agents. The only information that they have is how many votes each one of the candidates have at the moment. Right? I don't know who voted for A, B, C, and D, but they know that A has 15 votes, B has 2 votes, C has 8 votes, and so on. And given that, I can decide whether there is some deviation from my current strategy that can improve the outcome given my own preferences over their choices. Right? So the agents actually need very little information. They only have to know what their own preferences are. Well, that's the least you can expect from a rational agent in such a situation. And they have to know, in the case of plurality, how many votes each one of the candidates has. But there is no knowledge about the preferences of the other, there is no coordination of the action, and so on. So the question is whether we can converge to such a stable outcome. So formally, in a voting model, we have, well, a set of voters. Each one would have their preference over the set of candidates. Right? So the voters make propose their preferences, and the mechanism chooses from the set. Now, there is a set of rankings, a set of linear orders over the alternatives, and each agent has a preference, which is an element in the set, over the set of candidates. So each agent has a ranking, right, over the possible candidates. How much I prefer, not how much. I prefer A over B over C and so on. Different. Now agents submit their votes, and the votes look the very same way. So the vote is generally also is of the agent makes a true preference, then we would also have to offer the true. Now, given the votes, we need a mechanism that will decide who is the winner. Right? So this is our voting mechanism, or a voting rule, term which is used in voting. So basically, what is it? That's a function. That's a function whose input is a proper vote, right? And the output is some subset, non-empty subset of the candidate. Right? Sometimes we're interested in outcomes that is a group of candidates. We may need to select a fixed entity. Sometimes we're interested in a single winner. Such voting rule we would call resolute voting rule. These are rules that output a single winner, and usually the way it's done is to pair the general vote with some tie-breaking method. Exactly the way I put it in the example. And now breaking the ties can be done either deterministically or randomly, so there can be different ways to do that. In fact, that does matter and it does affect the convergence of voting position. There are many voting methods, many voting rules. They have different properties. We're going to talk in detail about that in semester 2, for those who are going to take that course. Here we are going to only cover plurality, the simplest rule. It's very popular because it's very simple. The problem with this rule is that although all of them are susceptible to such manipulations by voters to misreporting their preferences, plurality is particular prone to manipulation because to find a good manipulation for the agent is also computationally easy. Right? So it's not that in general the agent can manipulate. We also know that if they use plurality, that's actually not a hard answer. So plurality does have its drawbacks, but it's a very simple rule and it's still used in many contexts. So each voter reports his preference, but now when we have plurality, in fact, every ranking, so in general, we said that the point of the agent is the ranking, the linear order of the alternatives. Right? In plurality, we say that what we want from each voter is actually to give 1 point to his top choice and 0 points to all the other candidates. So all the orders that have a particular candidate X in the top would be the same. Right? So we can actually simplify the set of possible strategies here to just the set of candidates rather than all possible orders for the candidates. So assume that each voter just gives 1 point to one candidate, 0 points to all other candidates. And it's possible that the voters may have different power, or they have different weights, right? So, for instance, my vote will have a weight of 2, my mother's vote will have a weight of 5. Because in the family she has more power. So different candidates may have different weights, and then the score of the candidate would be the sum of weights from those voters who supported the given candidate, right? And the winner of the election will be the candidate with the highest score. Again, there could be alternatives with the tie, so if we want a single winner, we will need to add some tie-breaking methods and break the tie. Now, since we've seen that the agents can strategize in this game, and actually we want to see what are the chances to get a stable outcome. We can cast this situation as a normal game in the same sense that we can see before. So we have to say who are the players, right? What are their strategies, and what are their utilities? What are their preferences? How do they distinguish between different outcomes? So the agents, the players in the game will be voted. Right? We have a final set of players now. Their strategies would be different votes that they can cast, right? And generally, for a general voting rule, this can be given as ranking over the candidate. So the set of possible different rankings would be the set of strategies for each agent. Now there is a voting rule that possibly paired with the time rating rule that decides the outcome of the game. And the true preferences of the agent actually is a tool for the agent to decide how they control one possible outcome over the other. So the difference here from what from the game that we considered before, that I did not at the moment define any cardinal utility. Right? So here we have what is called ordinal utility. So I only have an order. I control outcome A over outcome B. I'm not saying by how much. There are settings where we can add such cardinal utilities, and in fact, if we talk about randomized time rating, we will have to do that. Otherwise, we will not be able to distinguish between different sets of winners, right? As the preference order is only given over single candidates. But any assignment of utilities that would agree with a particular linear order of the candidates would be also consistent assignment, and we can extend the model to allow for cardinal utilities as well. But in fact, having ordinal utilities is enough for the agent to see if he prefers one outcome over the other, right? And in voting theory, this is the classical assumption. So usually, cardinal utilities are not part of the model, although, again, it can be added if needed. Right? So this is a voting game for any voting rule. If we have plurality, then, as we said before, we can actually simplify the setting by replacing the set of strategies. So instead of the set of all linear orders, of which we have m for strategies, we can just take the set of candidates, because we only care about the top choice. So we will have only m strategies for each agent. And the voting rule that we use is right. There's also one possible extension, so that's just a generalization of the setting. We can assume that maybe only some parts of the agents are strategic, so they will be the players in the game. But there could be, so I denoted this set as K, alright, so these are the players in the game. And there could be also some other voters who do contribute to the score of each candidate, but they're not strategic. Okay, they seem to be cool. Obviously, this is a more general setting, because if you take this set of so-called fixed sincere voters to be empty, then you have everyone being strategic. That's exactly as before, right? So it's only a generalization of the setting. And all the rest is as before. Note that the outcome of particular vote is given, is determined by both the strategic and sincere vote. everyone does contribute to the score of the agent, but the change of strategies is only available to the strategic lead. Right. And a particular outcome of the crime, who's the preferable over another outcome P, given the preference order of that agent. So this is the change. Well, let's look at a particular example now. Assume that, so we have two candidates, we have two voters here whose weights are 3 and 4, so these are strategic voters. And we also have some sincere voters. We do not even tell how many, but these voters contributed some initial scores to each one of the candidates. So there are 3 candidates, A, B, and C, that come in with the initial scores of 7, 9, and 3, that are from the 6 voters. And now we have 2 people who strategize. So what happens if they vote for A or B or C? So if both of them vote for A, what will be the score of all the candidates? The current score of A is 7. We have 2 voters. Their weights are 3 and 4. Both vote for A. A gets another 7 points, right? So the score of A will be 14, and the score of B and C will not change, right? Similarly, if the first one votes for B, the second for A, then B gets 3 additional points, A gets 4 additional points, C doesn't get anything, so the respective scores are 11, 12, and 3, right? And so we can fill in the table for all of them. So what I have in the table now, these are just the scores of the candidates, right? These are not the utilities of anyone. So these are the scores of the candidates, and the candidate with the maximal score would be the winner, and these are highlighted here. So when both vote for A has 14 votes against 9, so that's the winner, and so on. Let's see now if there are some stable outcomes. So how do I check that? Well, first of all, I need the preference order I have to know what the preference is of the players. Right? At the moment, I don't know who prefers what. Right? So the game is not complete yet. So I have to introduce the preference. So now I know that the first agent prefers A over B over C, and the second agent prefers C over A over B. Okay? So if we're here, the first voter is happy, right? Because the winner is A, and A is his most preferred candidate. Right? So the first agent does not want to deviate from here. The second agent, so his deviations are along the columns, right? So he can move and make B win, or he can move to C, but A will stay the winner anyway. So moving to C doesn't change the outcome. He wouldn't do that. Right? Would he move to B? Yes, no? No. Why no? Because he doesn't like B. Right? So A is not his favorite candidate, so he prefers A over B, so he wouldn't move. So actually this is a stable outcome. Okay? What about this one? Well, we just said, actually, this guy would move either there or there. Right, so this is not a stable outcome. Is this one stable? First agent is happy, second agent, well, yeah, again. So same reasoning as here, right? If he moves to A, nothing changes. If he moves to B, that's worse for him, so he would not move. So these two equilibrium profiles, and okay, let's find another one here. So the second agent, yeah.
I just have a question. So
Yeah.
between A and C, would second agent not move to A to make it more likely that A wins, or would it
Well,
not matter?
there's no likely here. These are the two.
Yeah, but then there's other people who can do things. Or we're just considering only this exact case.
Well, we look at it in the sense of Nash equilibrium, which means that under the assumption that no one does anything at the moment, so you only consider unilateral deviation.
No.
So there could be possible systems. So if you make a move, as we've seen in the example, you have someone make a move and other agents react to that. But we looked at that as a sequence of unilateral deviations one by one. So it's possible to do that precisely. Computation is very hard. There is some research about that, very little research, but it's really hard to apply it and consider also all possible sequences of deviations, right? So we look at just simply Nash equilibria. Nash equilibria are profiles which are stable under this unilateral deviation. Yeah. So let's look at this one. You can check all of them and see. So from this one, definitely the source agent will deviate either up or down, because here B wins and he can make A wins, right? So this is not an equilibrium. What about this one? The source agent is happy. The second agent, although is not, because they can move and vote for C, and then C will be the winner, and this is their favorite candidate. So this is not an equilibrium. This is not an equilibrium. And this one, for instance, look, if the source agent changes his strategy either up or down, the winner, the scores do change, right? The winner still will be B, so no point to do anything. And same for the second agent. If it moves, the winner does not change, so that's stable. And in fact, these three profiles are the only equilibrium. So we can talk about Nash equilibria in this case. We will be, so the question of the existence of such analysis is not very interesting in this context. I'll tell you why. So we have seen in general games that equilibria in what we call view strategies may not necessarily exist, right? We remember the matching game where one agent wanted a coordinated action and another agent always wanted a non-coordinated action. And so they could agree on the possible outcome. In particular, that game is a very special case of games. It's called zero sum. You remember that in each cell there we have 1 for one of the agents and -1 for another agent. So the sum of the utilities was always 0, which means that one of the agents with the positive utility gets the money, which is in fact paid, taken from the pocket from the other agent. So it's really winning game. We can't expect any equilibrium there. But that's in general. In coding settings, apparently the question of existence of Nash equilibrium strategy is not that interesting. The opposite